Good afternoon and welcome to the Active Wealth Passive Income Active Wealth Show. Man, why did we pick a name that was so hard for me to say?
I don't know. We thought it was great at the time.
My name is Bill Fairman. This is Wendy Sweet and Jonathan Davis at the end. We are Carolina Capital Management. We do make loans. For anybody who is interested, go to our website, carolinahardmoney.com. Click on the Apply Now tab if you're interested in borrowing money. We also offer passive investments. So if you're an investor looking for passive returns, then click on the Investor tab. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our show. If you have any questions, we have a comment section on the right side of your screen, or depending on the platform you're on, it may be underneath. So, hey.
Yeah, we don't know where it is.
Jonathan had stepped out and
made it just in the nick of time.
He's like,
he was in the green room.
That's picking out his yellow M&Ms.
That's right.
Because no yellow M&Ms for me.
That's right.
By the way, we have an awesome guest today, and I'm going to let Wendy introduce Nancy, but I was perusing her website yesterday, and I love the way this thing is set up, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'll have a conversation offline about that.
Yep. Nancy is a good friend of mine, and I had her on my Sunrisers group a few weeks back, and I always love just talking with Nancy. She's got stories that she can keep you entertained for a long time. And I love that about her. This girl it's amazing all the stuff that she's done. You know, you talk about women that have energy. She is ate up with it. And she's done so many things. It just blows my mind. All the things that she has done, the books she's written, the articles that she's written that have been published in different magazines and things like Billy was even saying earlier today. Hey, I'm
going to ask her about that.
Okay.
When we talk.
All right.
Don't ruin his question.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's just amazing all the things that she's done. And we are just thrilled to have her on here. She's got so much she's going to share with us today. Welcome, Nancy. We're so glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Wendy, Bill, and Jonathan. I'm so excited to be a guest on your show today. And I know we were having some laughs, about before the show started. And I like to be entertaining. What I love about real estate is that there is a never-ending opportunity to have a good laugh, whether it's at yourself or a deal or a seller or whatever it is. And I think that's the one thing it keeps me going. It's just always something around the corner there. So
it's either laugh or cry, right?
Yeah, and one of my stories I want to share today is about a little crying, a little pain. If you've been in the business long enough, you go through all the gamut of all the different emotions. You know what I mean? Like, get a bad contractor. I got asked to talk on Halloween for Quest. They said, do you have scary stories? And I was like, can I talk about bad contractors?
Well,
I'm waiting for them to hear back from me. But, when you have a house, just a quick little bad story. A house that we were working on, I had gotten the tools and the materials, and I had bought 48 cocks of tube. Right, 40 tubes of caulk. And I was like, where did those tubes go? Because they didn't use them in the bathroom or the kitchen. Well, we found out that the sliding glass door that weighs about 400 pounds, the contractor tried to glue it in with
caulk. Goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to leak.
So instead of sliding this way, you just push it forward and it falls over.
Yeah, no opening it there. So I guess short on screws or something. And so he just decided to caulk that bad boy. We were wondering why it was like kind of sliding out of the, but
only when it's hot.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That reminds me of Walter Walford. I was walking through a house with him, and it was a split level. And this house
It's
literally
split.
Was split in two.
You can see the ground through it.
The ranch part of it and the two-story part of it were separating.
It's almost
And
like he did a jump.
The land, the land down in the Delta region of Mississippi kind of moves around a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I walked into the house, and there was a really nice set of built-in shelves up against the wall, and I noticed it was backlit and the power wasn't on.
It was the sunlight coming in.
I said,
Sunlight.
Walter, what are you going to do about this big crack? And that's exactly what he said. Caulk. That really wasn't what he was going to do with it.
Yeah.
But it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
see, that's why you got to just laugh sometimes, you
Yeah,
know.
that's
So
true.
yeah, and fortunately, the deck we have a deck being built, and so the guy that's doing the deck, he saw that, and oh my gosh, this was just a blessing. You know, sometimes you get blessings from above, and you know what? He took about 2 hours. Him and his buddy ripped out that patio door. They put in a header, like if the house falls down, that door's not going anywhere, right? And you know, a couple $100. It was the best couple $100 because my husband and I, we were like, okay, let's go rent some scaffolding and we'll get those suction cups, you know. And
That's too funny.
They fixed it right up. So you're talking
They
about
did.
lake house, and you just got that lake house. Tell us the story.
All right,
Repeat that story for us.
so we live in Dallas, Texas, and you know, my daughter is getting married at the end of the year, and so I told my husband we need a hook, right, to when she starts having babies and all that, and so we kind of been looking around for a lake house, and you know, they're kind of expensive, you know, and so we wanted to be close to Dallas, so we ended up looking in Granbury, and we had breakfast at this restaurant and started talking to this gal, and she told us about this neighborhood that we were not even looking in. So we literally found this lake house driving for dollars. If you don't think driving for dollars doesn't work, you know, it works. So the backstory in the house was it had actually been on the market the prior year and sat on the market for over 200 and some days because the guy didn't have a very good realtor. She took a picture of the carport and didn't even mention the nice deck, the deck and the water and all of that. So he didn't sell the house. So guess what? He's a motivated seller, and it was just getting ready to go back on the market. We just happened to catch it, right? They hadn't put it on the MLS, called the agent. They came out my husband and I were like, well, what do you think? You know, this house is, and because everything around here was $350,000. Plus, it needed another $200,000 in because they're expensive if you're going to have a lake house. And so he told us the price, and we both just looked at him and go, okay, we're putting in a full price offer right now. And that's what we did. We got the house inspected. We renegotiated the price down. And we got the price. And I was telling backstage, I was saying, even our lender said that we got a good deal. And you know, when your lender says you got a good deal, you got a good deal. And I was saying how the guy threw in a boat, and the boat was 1979. At first we were like, oh, this is just junk. He doesn't want to haul it off. That puppy works, and we had it out on the water yesterday. 1979 orange metallic. So driving for dollars, I got the lake house. The deck had to be redone. The patio door had to be done. So it's been a challenge, but yeah, driving for dollars is how we found that bad boy.
That's awesome. And it's amazing that you are driving for dollars. I tell people all the time, you know, they're saying, I can't find a wholesaler. I can't find deals. I've been doing all these postcard mail outs and all this stuff. I always tell them, find a street that you want to buy on, that you know that people are probably willing to sell. Park it on a Saturday morning between 10 and 2, because that's when everybody's home, and just start knocking on doors.
Yep, exactly. Because you know what? You just never know. And I know we're going to talk about the profitable landlord system, but one of the things that I find that if you can get good deal flow, you can be a wholesaler or a flipper or buy and hold or whatever it is that you want to do, but you have to have deal flow. And so that's one of the things I really focus on with people, because what when I'm working with someone new, what I find is that they're just all over the board. Like I had a student and he was like marketing all to Texas. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You need to get into your own backyard because there's deals to be had there. Yeah. And Dallas is very, very competitive.
Right.
You have to, I do go to secondary markets, but there are ways to compete with all those other investors. But if you're not focused and consistent, you're not going to have deal flow. So that's what we really teach is how to get your deal flow going. And, we just don't have a problem with that. And we use driving for dollars. We use, I just use note cards. I used to use postcards and letters and not door knock, but my two go-to marketing techniques are driving for dollars and using note cards on targeted lists that I'm, culling, and I only market to, I'll talk a little bit about my marketing. I market to properties in an area that I want to invest. Okay, so and sometimes they're secondary, but there's a certain location, a certain appreciation that I've already analyzed, and I focus on that area. So I like to do handwritten note cards, and it says, this is my key message. It says, Dear Smith family, I'm interested in the property at 123 Main Street. If you're interested in selling, call me. And it has my number, and that's it. That is my marketing message. That's just like, I'm just giving you that. And about every 100 cards I send out, I get at least one deal that pays for my list.
Wow.
And I'll make anywhere from minimum $5,000 if I end up wholesaling it to actually acquiring a property. So that is my go-to. Driving for dollars. Anytime I'm out and about looking at a property, I always drive a neighborhood where I'm at. So those are my two really. And if you just stick to an area and you stick to your consistent messaging. So with my students, the first thing I do with them is I get a time commitment, because you're not going to make your deal flow happen unless you commit, I say a minimum of 5 days a week, could be Monday through Friday, Tuesday through Sunday, whatever you want to do, and 30 minutes a day, and you'll have deal flow. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but and I hire a mom in my neighborhood, and I pay her $10 an hour to write these note cards for me. I give her my list, and then I pay for the postage. So really, I don't have a lot of high cost. I have CallRail to take my numbers and to track what campaigns I'm dealing with. But that's how I do all my marketing.
That's awesome.
I mean, you would pay like tens of thousands of dollars for that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, Nancy, a professional interview typically has structure. And since we're not professional,
Okay.
we started off right into some stories. So let me ask you this question first,
Okay.
which is now in the middle. All right. So how did you get started in this business, and what the heck is it that you do?
All right. Those are some good questions. All right. Well, I've been investing. My husband and I, Brian, he couldn't be here with me because he's at the lake house. So hopefully he logged in and he's watching. And we, this is how we got started. We lived in Arizona, and in 2005, when the whole, the market went crazy in Phoenix, we had been living in our house for about 8 years. And we were ready to kind of, our kids were getting bigger, and we kind of wanted to just move into another house. And I had always in the back of my mind, gosh, I don't even know if they had those kind of shows, those flipping shows back in the day, but I always had an interest in real estate. I just, I was a blood bank management consultant. That's what I did. I helped blood banks become more cost effective by managing their call centers. So we started looking around at properties, and we were like, dang, these for what we had, we couldn't afford what the same kind of house that we had was about 3 times more. So we said, that's interesting. We started going to open houses in our neighborhood. And what was happening is houses were flipping in our neighborhood. So my husband and I are a bit adventuresome. And we were at an age where we said, when can you make this kind of money? And you know what we did? We put our house on the market, and we moved to Dallas area. We had some friends that lived here, so we had visited once. And I'm originally from the Midwest. Within 3 weeks, we put our house on the market, we cashed out, and we quit our jobs. I said, we can get jobs anywhere. I mean, we're both smart people. I'll go flip burgers, but when can you make this kind of money? So that's how that was our first go round with real estate. I was like, dang, you can make money. And when it's your homestead like that, it's all tax free. Yay. So that was the first time in my life that I had been able to just go, I didn't have to rush out to get a job, right? So I really thought about it, and I was like, I always had an interest in real estate investing. So the realtor that we worked with, she introduced me to a real estate investor. And I wanted to come and work for her, and she wouldn't hire me because I had no real estate experience. I was very organized and everything. And so I offered to work for her for free. I said, just give me 30 days. I just want to learn. I want to know about real estate. And she handed me, here's another tip. She handed me Gary Keller's, the blue book, Real Estate, How to Become a Real Estate Millionaire. And she goes, read this. And when you read it, get back to me. And then I'll meet with you. So she wouldn't meet with me until I read it. And I went home and I read that book in a day and a half. And to this day, that's still my Bible for buying single family rentals, the way Gary goes through it. So she was impressed that I read the book so fast. And she did hire me for peanuts. I mean, literally, I think I worked for her for like $5 an hour. And this was 15 years ago. And I was already, remember, I'd been a management consultant, so I was used to making way more money. But it was the opportunity to be mentored by this person. And she actually sold me my first rental property. And I can still remember the day she called me up and she said, if you don't buy this house, I will. Now, I later learned that was because she was a realtor. And I later learned that was just what she always said to get you to buy the house. And I remember one time I actually used that. I was like, well, if you don't buy that house, I will. And I was so scared. I mean, we did buy the house. And we were putting a chunk of change down. This was back, before the whole, I think Countrywide was our lender, if that's how long ago this was.
Wow.
You could pretty much breathe. But, we were so nervous about, I remember that pit in my stomach about, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to buy this house. Is this what I want to do? Oh my gosh, it seems so risky. And I mean, palms were sweating. It was very scary. And most new people, that's what prevents them from moving forward is the fear, right? So we pushed forward. We got it rented right away. I had two people that applied for the property. One was another realtor, and one was a guy that was a handyman, and his wife worked for South Fork, the ranch here that used to be on TV, South Fork.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked my mentor, I said, who should I rent to? I don't know. I didn't know how to screen tenants. And she said, rent to the handyman and the lady that works at South Fork. Don't rent to the realtor. Why? Here's another tip for you. Realtors' income is based on the market, and it ebbs and flows. Where they had steady income, they ended up being, we kept that property for about 13 years, and they were the original tenant.
Wow.
So they paid the rent and everything. So that's how, and then we just started buying properties out. So after the first one, and then when we bought the second one, we still had little butterflies, but we kind of knew, and we kept to our formula. We buy 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. So we stuck to a certain formula, and that takes the scariness out of it. Plus you learn, how to do your due diligence. So, and what I really love about this business is all the people that you meet. Like, she was wonderful. Her and I became great friends. We started a property management company together. She unfortunately passed away in 2015. And so I'm going to talk a little bit later about a book I wrote that's going to come out. But she taught me so much. I learned everything that I learned from her. And I work with her, and I had a partnership. So I love, and then just all the people that I've met that are interested in helping you grow, whether you pay them or, mentor them or whatever. But you know what I don't like about real estate is the people. And the reason I say that is because with all the good people that are out there that want to learn, there are people out there, and I'm just bringing this up because I had a recent incident with some contractors. I just wish there was a way to regulate that industry, because I feel like I know what I'm doing. And I'll have these contractors, like I was telling the story about the patio door that the guy tried to glue in with caulk instead of, and then he takes off. And then, or one guy, he said he was going to do this work and he didn't. But then the people that take advantage of the new people, like I'll meet people at real estate investing groups. And I met this one young couple, and they had spent, $40,000. And I just said, and they weren't anywhere. I said, stop, just stop. And we invited them over to our house for a Saturday morning coffee. And we just, not that I know everything, but what we do is we tell our story. This is how we do real estate investing. So then, fast forward, I met a 22-year-old girl who she was at a networking event, and some people had left her some money. I think it was her grandparents. And there were these other wholesaling company, and they were on her, just on her. So I took her aside and I said, hey, you don't know me, but if you'd ever like to just come over and talk to my husband and I, we don't push anything. We just tell our story. Well, then now that I have the profitable landlord system and I am a mentor and a coach, she reached out to me, and she's one of my students. I'm happy to say that. And she's been wanting to do it. And I said, you just need to pull the trigger. And within 2 weeks, she had her first appointment that we went to, and we made an offer on a house 2 weeks after starting it, because we worked on her consistency and her messaging and her focus.
Awesome.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah, I see people, I've had people come to me for loans and they don't qualify because they spent literally $70,000 to $80,000. I
know. And, and during this COVID thing, what I've seen is, and you can just see it on Facebook, people that have been in the business like a nanosecond, and now they're a coach or this, right. And we, even though I do charge, we're very affordable. I'm very transparent. And you know what? I back it up with a money back guarantee. If you didn't get, if you don't get what I say, as far as like getting a deal or getting qualified for lending, because we do talk about, how to get financing for these properties. I'm going to give you your money back. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I want your money. I want your money. I want to make it affordable for people because I want them to be successful and I want them to have the life that they deserve. But they just need, people are like, oh, well, why should you pay for it? There's all this free stuff on the internet. Well, yes, but if you're the kind of person that just needs a roadmap to get there because you don't know, and I'll meet a lot of people that are like, well, I need to do my cash flow. I need to be a wholesaler first. And you know what I say to those folks? It's like, well, you know what? Being a wholesaler is actually probably one of the hardest exit strategies in real estate investing because number one, you have to have superior negotiation skills to get that property at such a low discount. And then you've got to have your buyer's list so that you can wholesale it. I didn't wholesale my first property till maybe a year or two ago. Because if I find a deal, I'm going to figure out a way to get it. Keep it for myself. You know what I mean?
That's right. And the other thing too is, you don't have to pay $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to get a good coach or a good mentorship or even a good program on what it is you want to do. You don't have to pay that.
No.
And that's what kills me. I see people, putting all this money on their credit cards to get in there and get a jump start. And it doesn't have to be that way. It just kills me to see people doing that.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jonathan.
It is, it's like you said, Nancy, these people who have been in this industry for 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is, and they're out there
taking advantage.
And, you can't guide somebody with 1 year of experience. You can probably barely guide someone with 10 years of experience.
And you know what I do for people?
A lot of experience to be able to guide somebody through this because you have to be able to see a lot of things.
Exactly. And, and there's questions you need to be asking someone that you're considering to be a coach. So if somebody's like on the fence, I'm like, look, if, maybe you and I aren't a good fit, but here's a list of questions that you need to ask somebody that you're considering hiring. Number one, are they an investor?
Right.
I love it when people say, oh, I need to find a realtor that knows about real estate investing. And my question is, well, how many properties do they have? You know what I mean? Because if they don't own real estate, how can they be a real estate a realtor that it knows about real estate investing? I mean, buying and selling houses, it's not that hard, but to really know what type of exit strategy to use, to really do the due diligence on the repairs. Is it going to be cash flow? Do you know how to find an appreciating property? So that property that I talked about, my very first property that I was so nervous to buy. Fast forward, so we sold it for a couple reasons. Or number one, the guy had been in there when I first put him in. His rent was like $1,000. That's what the rent was back in the day, right? He qualified for $1,000, and so I'm a big believer in long-time. I love long-time tenants, so I don't raise the rent craziness. Like I don't do $200. I look at, okay, what do I need to raise it to keep the tenant in there? Because if you raise it too much, then they move out, and then that causes me to spend more money on the turn. So, but by the time, I had it over 10 years, he could not afford the rent, because remember, he went in at $1,000 and a $50 increase. He didn't have the income because the rents now had gotten up to almost $2,000.
Wow.
Well, and there was a lot of deferred maintenance on the property because he'd been there for so long. And the property had more than doubled in price. So we did an exit strategy that allowed us to leverage that appreciation that we had gotten to buy more properties. And that's really how you build the generational wealth that people really, really want.
Right.
Cash flow is great. I mean, if you can get $100, $400 on cash flow, that's really good. But where you really make the wealth is in the appreciation and how to leverage your properties. That's how you do it. So.
Yep. Well said.
Do you have a formula, Nancy, of what kind of income you want to have? What's the profit on the income that you want to have every month off of any particular property? Is, you want to make 300 in profit, 400 in profit. What is it that you're looking for mostly?
So mostly it's so that we do have a certain limit that we want to get to, because my husband, Brian, still works a full-time job, and we need the benefits. So when you have to have benefits, you need to have my income. So we know my income plus his income plus, it's not like I turned 29 yesterday. I need to have a cushion for the medical. So the medical is probably what keeps us in the game. But as far as like a monthly amount, so as long as all of my mortgages are covered on my properties, I have one property, but for the most part, I carry debt on my rentals. So as long as all of that is covered, I'm able to pay for my marketing, right? And so if I'm clearing, let's say $1,000 a month on all my rentals, I'm doing good, because what people don't really talk about is the tax breaks you get on the back end. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not the money that I have to make every month, but it's the tax money I'm saving by my rentals.
Right.
And that then goes to your overall so we're more interested in generational wealth and leaving a legacy. So I know I was gonna kind of leave this for the end, but for me, the wealth is that I have what I need. I don't need to live extravagantly, and my time is more valuable at this point in my life. So I want time for my family, but I also want to leave a legacy for my family. So we then went down the road of creating a nonprofit. So I don't know if this is the right time to kind of jump into that, but
yeah, talk about your husband and the nonprofit.
Okay, I will. Thank you, Wendy, for letting me share this. And Brian would be here because this is really his journey. And so as the spouse, I've witnessed what he's gone through and lived through it. So we've been married. We've been together for over 25 years. We've been married like 20, I think we just had our 23rd. Sorry, honey, if I forgot how many years. It's 22, 23, you know what I mean? And after we are married, so we're a blended family. Together we have 5 children. So just with that comes a lot of, and then you have me doing all these crazy real estate things. Well, about a couple of years into our marriage, Brian had been diagnosed with chronic depression. And in my family, we have lots of different kinds of dysfunction, but depression is not one of them. And so, I didn't really know that much about depression. I'm just like, okay, snap out of it, right? And that people with chronic depression can't do that. They can't snap out of it. They don't have control. It's an illness. And Brian, bless his heart, he was very good at a mask. Like most people who know Brian would never guess that he had chronic depression. He was just like that commercial where you see people with the little mask.
Yeah.
But then behind the scenes, but then as men, just like women, as men age, they have hormonal changes as well. So he'd been on a different cocktail of antidepressants since mid 30s, right? So for over 20 years, he'd been taking all these pills. Well, they stopped working. And the primary care physician, they're not equipped to deal with mental illness. And so they just kept just prescribing him different meds, right? Well, what happened was he had one too many cocktail mixtures, and he had a complete breakdown. I mean, where he was developed Parkinson-like tremors.
Wow.
He was unable to really have cognitive thinking. And he had to be hospitalized because literally what happened was his body was just, he was, I mean, for a lack of, it's not a medical term, but he was whacked out.
Yeah.
It was really scary because I had to get medical power of attorney and all that kind of stuff. But he went into a treatment facility where they literally took him off of every medicine. And then they had to slowly reintroduce him. Now, we were very, very fortunate. And you can probably tell, I'm like an advocate, and I became his advocate. And I would not accept that these doctors just wanted to give him another pill. And I kept saying, there has to be something else. And so we were so fortunate and blessed that we were introduced to a psychiatrist here that she offered TMS treatment, transmagnetic stimulation treatment. And Brian had the treatment. We were very fortunate. Our insurance covered it. It's like a $12,000 treatment. Now, it didn't matter. We would find the money for him. And it was a game changer. And I can't even tell you what a game changer. He had a treatment of 36 treatments in a row within 2 weeks. Now, normally when you take antidepressants, it takes months to decide if they are working or whatever. Within 2 weeks, he had a lightness. I could tell that something was going on positively. We had gone on a trip right after that, and our daughter was getting engaged. And he was able to enjoy it, because sometimes when you travel and you're depressed and, you might get off your schedule of your meds or whatever, but it's very stressful for people that have chronic depression. And he was able to sail through that trip and probably was the best trip that we ever had. So that made a believer. And then as we started researching more about this, because we'd never heard about it, what we found is that a lot of doctors don't even talk about it because it's pharma, big pharma wants to push all the antidepressants, the pill.
Right.
It is expensive. There was a lady that wrote a book that we've become friends on LinkedIn called 3000 Map of Light or something like that. And anyway, she has a similar story, like the insurance wouldn't cover it, and doctors were just trying to give her another pill. And but I'm telling you, this for Brian was just a game changer, and a game changer for our marriage, because if you are with somebody, I've known people that had a depressed spouse and they ended up getting a divorce. I mean, it's very lonely. There were times when he just, he didn't go with me to presentations or networking, or he couldn't be excited about a deal we found. And it hurt my feelings, but he could not, it was beyond his control to have the empathy, and there's only so many pills and cocktails that you can take. So now it's like we have a honeymoon. I mean, he had not quite, it was just a little over a year ago, he had the treatment. It's like a whole, like a honeymoon, a new marriage, the freshness. It's been amazing. I mean, it makes me just go, oh my gosh, all this time that's gone by that we didn't know about this. So we want to be advocates for other people that might be facing this. So we decided that we were going to create a nonprofit. It's called Map of Hope. And I'm so excited. Just a couple weeks ago, I got approval from the IRS that it's actually a nonprofit. We have a website. It's called mapofhope.net, because .com was taken. And if you go there, you can read our story and what we went through and, Brian's journey. And there's literally a diagram of a brain there. And we called it Brian's brain, and it's Brian's journey. And like he would have darkness with the chronic depression, and then he has lightness with the TMS treatment. And he still takes a little bit of he was able to downsize. He hasn't gotten completely off because it does take time, but he doesn't take as many pills as he used to. And eventually he'll be able to get off of them. We just didn't want it. You can't just go off of those pills, but just the lightness and the happiness that he's been able to achieve by having this treatment. There you go. Yes. And if you can, please donate. I'm here to say that what we're doing is we want people that cannot afford this. We want to be able to help pay for this treatment. So we work directly with the doctor's office. We're not making the call. We're simply think of us like the insurance. So if the insurance doesn't cover it, the doctor's office can actually contact us, and then we just pay the doctor's office, the qualified TMS doctor's office. For people that need it, and it's a game changer. And as we started telling our story, we found out there are so many people that are affected by depression, and especially now with COVID. Not that this is what somebody that's having depression because of COVID, but there's another alternative out there besides just loading up on antidepressants. So I hope people just check it out. PM me, I will be happy to talk with anybody about our journey and what we went through and what it was like. We'll get Brian on the phone, but please just reach out. And if you can make a donation, we'd really, really like it. And I'll send you, the certificate or whatever for the, because it's tax, what do they call that now? It's tax donation, tax deductible. Thank you.
So the treatment itself is it's like electrodes.
So what they do is they map the brain, and it's like it's not electric shock treatment, because that's what I was like, no. They still do that though. I guess they do that. No, this is like they map your brain, and what they're doing is they're tapping, the machine taps right here, and it's stimulating the serotonin. The serotonin is made up here. So people with chronic depression, they don't have that. Their body is not making serotonin. That's what makes you happy.
Right.
So when they hook him up, when they know they have the right spot, because his thumb will move. So it's not, it's non-invasive. The treatments last about 40 minutes. He had, because of his, each doctor, I guess, assesses how many treatments you need, but he had 36 treatments. And I'm like, if you know someone that has depression and you know how they are, just imagine if you could lift that cloud. And it was almost like magic. And it's very disheartening that it's not talked more about in our society, and that doctors aren't talking about it. So I'm just saying, is that,
they don't get the kickbacks for it. So
So Wendy, when you ask me, how much money do I need to make? I need to make enough money so that even if we just help one person have a better life, I would be so happy. So that's our legacy. We want this to be ongoing, long after I'm gone and Brian's gone. We want Map of Hope to be able to help people. Hopefully they'll come up with a cure for depression. But if they don't, and this is something that helps people, then to me, that's really now my end goal when I invest in real estate, because I've gotten the wealth that I'm happy with and I'm comfortable with. And now I'm giving back. I want to give back about, yes, I'm a real estate investor, but every chance I get, I want to talk about Map of Hope and how we got here. So my next book, I'm going to kind of backtrack here a little bit. So I wrote a book called Winning Deals and Heals.
Yeah, I love that. Talk about that.
So I got that one. Yeah, right here. Winning Deals and Heals. Right? You can get it on Amazon, and I am such a give backer person. Part of the proceeds of this book go to Hope Store here in Texas, in Plano, Texas, and it's a shelter. They help families heal from domestic violence. So part of the proceeds from this book go to another nonprofit. And the reason I wrote Winning Deals and Heals is because I wanted to give a platform and a voice to women real estate investors. Now, I think in the last 12 months, it's gotten better, but most of the conferences that you see, most of the podcasts that you see are men driven. And not that men don't have a lot to say too, but I saw that you were going to be on the QuestCon that's coming up in November, and Liz Faircloth, and she does the Invest Her, and I run the Dallas chapter of Invest Her. because I feel really strongly that women, sometimes we just think differently. And one of the things I work with people on, not be emotional, like I'll talk to people, and the reason the story behind Winning Deals and Heels is I had a friend, and I get frustrated with contractors and anybody who does flips or, rehabs. I mean, you're going to run across a bad contractor. It's just going to happen. Well, one of my friends called me up, and she had a bad contractor experience, and she cried in front of them. And so I was raised like, yeah, don't cry. Right? And I was like, don't cry, because then they think, and it doesn't change their mind. They're still going to rip you off. And I said, and it kind of started off, a lot of my female real estate investor friends were like, well, and I kind of find this too, we kind of have to play a different card than men do. Now, I know how to tile, and I know how to, use a hammer. So I'm usually on a job site doing something. So they know, at least I know what I'm talking about. And so, but, from time to time, I mean, I'm blonde, and I'm sorry, sometimes you have to play that card, you know what I'm talking about? I don't really want to say it. There's going to be a book about the differences between men and women and dealing in the real estate industry. But then I thought, you know what? I don't want to focus on that. I want to be able to tell women that are sitting there and maybe listening in the audience today, like, maybe their children, they've raised their children, and they're looking for that. How can I make more money? Maybe they've been laid off from their job through no fault of their own because of COVID. Maybe they got a divorce. Maybe their husband died. But you know what? You can be a real estate investor. Mm-hmm. And in the book, there's common threads. There's myself and 9 other gals that I interviewed, and we all have common factors. Mm-hmm. Number 1, we all had a trusted mentor. Some of us paid for them and some of us didn't. And there's different ways to pay for things, right? Like my mentor, I went to work for her for peanuts, right? Mm-hmm. We all hired somebody that did our menial tasks, like housekeeping, hate it. Hire a housekeeper. Maybe it's somebody, now you can do the groceries online, but get rid of one menial task. You know what I mean? Your time's worth more than that. Mm-hmm. Women, I'm sorry. I mean, men, maybe you are like this too, but don't be emotional about your real estate investing. It's a business. That's you know right. What? One of my students, she's talking to a seller, and he just wants too much money for the house. And she goes, well, do you think I could talk him down? I go, well, you know what? The delta right now is about $60,000. So no, I don't think you can talk him down. But what you need to do is just say, hey, this is the cash offer I'm going to give you. We could talk about subject to, but I mean, we were so far apart. So know when you got to cut bait and move on, right? You just, mm-hmm. You're not going to cajole them into a $50,000 drop in price. And don't just spend the money because you want to jump in. I met a young couple, and they bought a house, and they overpaid, and I told them, don't, they called me after they bought the house. And they're like, what do you think? I said, don't over improve it. Don't, you're in a neighborhood. And so they were, they lost about $20,000 on the deal. And I said to them after an appropriate amount of time, I said, well, why did you buy this house? And the response was, we just wanted to get in the game. Don't get in the game. Don't be too hasty to get in the game. Get in the game sensibly. And then the last thing is that start small. Don't, I've taken coaching programs, right? And I take what I need from them. So I don't need to learn 20 different strategies to sell a house.
Right.
I need to learn one and then master it, and then I can move on. Now, one of the things that I do in my course is I do teach people how to monetize leads, because we focus on single family, but when I do my marketing, there are houses that are not necessarily a single family, they're not going to make a good one. So I talked about my first house, how I got, and I was so scared. Well, fast forward 15 years. And here's what I did yesterday. I put a deal together. So I have a house under contract I never saw. Do not do this if you're brand new. Okay. I've been doing this for a while. So I'm buying it for $70,000. I already have sold it. I'm going to owner finance it for 90 or 115. The ARV on the house is 140. Okay, wow. I bought it for 70, right? I'm using private money to buy it, right, from my private money people. And my terms for my buyer is that any points I pay, the fees, because how I set up my private money lender with my Quest IRA folks is I pay their fees to borrow their money. So I pay points and then I pay the percentage. So basically my buyer is reimbursing me all of those costs. So this is my first deal. Remember, I've been doing this for a while. I have never seen the property and I'll have zero money out of pocket. Zero.
Beautiful.
I'm actually doing a no money down deal. And I will get I'm doing owner finance and I'm getting $100 a month, just $100. And in 1 year, because I'm making the buyer refinance, I'll make $25,000. So I'm making $1,200 in 12 months, for the $100, and then I'm making $25,000, and I had no money in the deal. And that's after I pay off my lenders and everything. I'll make $25,000.
That's more than 100% profit.
It's like I did the numbers. I'm actually doing next week. I'm doing a webinar on how to grow your small dollar IRA, and I'm actually using this that case study. It's 617% is our return on investment.
That's awesome. So you're doing that in your IRA. You're buying the house in your IRA.
So my private money lenders are using their IRA money.
Gotcha.
So I have 2 private money lenders that are using their IRAs. So they're going to make total. They'll make $6,000 plus 15. So they're going to make $7,500. One's doing 40 and one's doing 35. So they're about 50-50 on it. And they're happy, and they're people that have, that's kind of my little niche with my lenders, is that I have a lot of people that I use their small dollar IRA, and I help them become private money lenders.
That's awesome. That's
awesome. And I'll have an online course about that, like in a week or two. So
let's talk about your program that you have.
Okay.
And how can people learn about that, and all of these things that you're saying you're doing, the webinars and stuff? How can people get in touch with you to get on those and be able to enjoy that with you?
So I partnered with a company called Real Estate IQ. You can just Google them. You can also email me at nancy@kvnhomes.com. But I've partnered with Real Estate IQ to do this series. It's over the next 3 weeks on how to invest with your small dollar IRA. And then the Profitable Landlord System is, just website, Profitable Landlord System. There's an online assessment so people can take it. And then after they've taken it, then I'll just follow up with them with a phone call. And the phone call, what we'll do is we'll kind of assess what their goals are. My program is dedicated to helping people buy single family rentals and build generational wealth through single family rentals. So if you're interested in multifamily, this is not going to cut it for you. If you're interested in commercial, we don't do any of that. It's strictly single family rentals.
Awesome.
There would be like duplexes or whatever or whatnot. But how you get on the webinar, I think I have it on Facebook as well, but real estate. So actually Google real estate IQ, and go to their website, and then under events, and go to October 20th, and you can register for it right there.
I think you have it on your website as well, don't you? Either under media or events or something like that.
Yeah.
On your KV Homes.
And if they email me direct, I'll send them the link too. But so the Profitable Landlord System is basically, I have broken it down into easy to follow steps. So there's 5 different modules. One is about how to find the sellers. And so what I want to do is talk a little bit about that, because if you don't have sellers, you won't have tenants. You don't have to get loans. None of that. But it'll take you all the way through if you want to grow a team. That's how I designed it. So it's meant for people that have 5 or less rental properties. If you already have 50, I probably can't teach you anything. Maybe how to property manager or something like that. And I do offer a separate course just on property management, like how to find a property manager, what to ask them. But I just want to stick a little bit on the profitable seller. That's what I call them, because that's what you want to find, is they're distressed and they're a profitable seller, because you're going to make a profit off of them, right? And so what we do is we work through 10 different, I call them risk factors, because when you are looking for a property, there's location, there's the age, there's the size, there's the, floor plan layout. And those individually don't matter, right? Doesn't matter location, doesn't matter about age, but when you bring them together, I actually rate each one of them. So I'm just going to give you an example for me. So my first property that I talked about was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, built 19. I like properties that are 1978 and newer because why? Not because the builders were better or anything, but because of the lead-based paint. Because when you're dealing with tenants, you always have to have them sign it.
Great
So
point.
but when I'm marketing, if I find a property that's 1950, I'll wholesale that, or maybe I'll owner finance it. So there's a different exit strategy. So when I'm looking for my rentals, I have a certain formula that I use, and that's what I teach. Now, depending on where the person lives, 2-bedroom, 1-bath might be more prevalent than a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But the reason I stick with 3-bedroom, 2-bath is because you can rent those all day long. I mean, that's a family, that's somebody that's downsizing, so we look at the location, the age, and then I also look at appreciating areas because I'm going to buy properties that I've already identified as appreciating. And then the other thing we're going to look at is rents in the area. So let me just break this down. So the property that I bought, it was a few years ago, but you could apply it to any of the rentals I own today. So I looked at the location. I loved the location because I knew it was appreciating. It was actually, you couldn't build there anymore. It was not a highly rentable area, meaning that there weren't a lot of rentals. I don't buy properties where every house on the street is a rental. I'm looking for a particular type of tenant, right? And so if you have a property that's in a high crime area, has tons of rentals, that's the type of person you're going to attract, which in the end will hurt your profitability. So I look at all these things. So I want to know what the average rent is in the neighborhood and how many rentals there are. And that is very important. So each one of these, I put a score, like a 1 to 5. So 1, very low risk. 5 is like, move on, don't buy that property. So when you go through the profitable seller module, you will learn, okay, how do I figure out what's a good location? So the location that's good for me might not be good for you because number one, I only want properties that are within a 30-minute as a rental, as a 30-minute one way from where I'm at. Okay, now I have a property.
Nancy, this is incredible stuff.
Okay,
and
all right.
Man, I wish we could get into more, but that's exactly what people needed to hear. Is just one great example of what this program. I mean, I want to hear more. Unfortunately, we're at a hard stop.
All righty, but you know what? Like I said, it's out there. I'm having a special. So if you contact me direct, and you mentioned Carolina Capital, I'm going to give you a discount on the.
Oh, yay! Thank you for doing that.
And let me just say this really quick. It's only 13 weeks. This is not like a year's worth of stuff. You'll be able to learn this stuff, put it in use, and start getting your properties. It's not like it's a very short amount of time that we work. It's very intensified, but at the end of it, you're going to have all the tools you need to go out there and buy all those properties.
And it has a money back guarantee.
And a money back guarantee. So if I don't live up to what I said I would do, I'll give you your money back. So
that's awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
So yeah.
And that's the profitablelandlordsystem.com.
Yep.
We've got it on the board here. Nancy, you have just, I wish we had 3 more hours for you. You've given us so much great information, and I'm so thrilled that you've shared all the things that you've shared. There's wonderful things that you're doing. You're an inspiration to men and women everywhere.
Well, I hope so.
And I really appreciate it, and I'm proud to call you my friend.
Me too, Wendy. And thank you so much for having me on. It was great. I know I can just.
Well, yeah, and we can sit and listen because it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Thank you so very much.
And y'all have a blessed day. And thanks again. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Excellent. You. And folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, it was the, what do we call our show again?
Passive income.
See, they don't know either.
Income, active wealth.
It's on the screen.
He knew.
Thank you.
We can read.
So we are Carolina Capital Management. We make loans. Our website is carolinahardmoney.com. If you're a borrower interested in borrowing money, click on the Apply Now tab. If you're an investor, click on the Investor tab.
We only take interesting borrowers.
Yeah.
That's right.
you're not interesting, we won't take
The
you.
business is interesting enough.
That's right.
Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our show. If you have any additional questions, again, you can add them to the chat box. We do have folks that peruse the chat box even after the shows are over.
That's right. That's right.
You guys have a great day. Sue, who is going to be my next appointment, give me 5 minutes, please. Talk to you later.
Listen, I'm sure. Thanks. Bye-bye.